Hello everyone, I'm Mr. X, and welcome to our channel. Wishing you all a fantastic day filled with positivity and energy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support us and keep us motivated to create even better content. Today, we're going to explore La Rinconada, the highest permanently inhabited town in the world. Let's get started. Located higher than the peak of Mont Blanc, La Rinconada sits at a staggering 5,100 meters, 16,700 feet, above sea level in the Andes Mountains of Peru. Here, the air is so thin that oxygen levels are only half of what they are at sea level, and the freezing temperatures can make survival a daily struggle. But this is not a tourist destination or a peaceful retreat. Instead, it is a battleground where 50,000 people risk their lives every day in search of gold. There is no running water, no waste management system, no government control, only crime, pollution, disease, and people clinging to survival against all odds. The question is, why do they choose to stay? Living in La Rinconada means breathing in thin air, where oxygen levels are only 50% of what they are at sea level. Those who travel from lower altitudes often experience dizziness, nausea, headaches, or even death due to altitude sickness. But the locals have adapted. Their bodies produce twice as many red blood cells as normal, allowing them to survive with minimal oxygen. However, this doesn't mean they are healthy. Most suffer from heart disease, high blood pressure, and respiratory problems, constantly battling exhaustion from prolonged oxygen deprivation. If breathing itself is a challenge, surviving here is even harder. Not a single tree can grow in this barren land. The climate is too cold, the air pressure too low, and the soil too poor. Homes are built from whatever materials people can find, garbage piles up, and there is no clean water system. Residents drink melted glacial water, which may be contaminated with heavy metals from nearby gold mines. At night, temperatures drop below freezing, but there is no heating system. Those who are too weak to endure the cold may fall asleep and never wake up. The only reason they stay, gold. No one comes to La Rinconada for a better life. They come for gold. Here, gold is buried deep within the mines. Every day, men crawl into dark, narrow tunnels filled with toxic gases, chipping away at the rock to extract tiny bits of ore. There is no proper ventilation, no protective gear. Mine collapses are common, and many never make it out alive. But even if they do, there's no guarantee they will leave with anything. None of them have work contracts. Instead of being paid daily wages, they follow an unofficial system called cacorio. Under this rule, they work for free the entire month. Then, on one single day, they are allowed to take as much gold or as they can carry. But whether that or contains gold or not is pure luck. If they're lucky, they might find a few grams of gold. If not, they leave with nothing. The cost of the gold rush, disease, despair, and death. In this place, everyone is poisoned. In La Rinconada, no one can escape the shadow of toxic contamination. Extracting gold from ore is not just a dangerous job, it is a gamble between life and death. To separate gold from impurities, mercury is used as a key binding agent. But mercury is also a highly toxic neurotoxin, with devastating effects on those exposed for too long. With no protective measures, miners handle mercury with their bare hands, inhaling invisible, odorless fumes released when gold-bearing ore is burned. These vapors seep into the lungs, bloodstream, and deep into every cell. No one notices the damage immediately, but day by day, hour by hour, the poison slowly destroys their bodies. At first, it starts with persistent headaches and unexplained fatigue. Then come the uncontrollable tremors, insomnia, and memory loss, turning people sluggish and confused. Over time, they lose the ability to work, to care for themselves. Their limbs weaken, their bodies deteriorate, and their nervous systems are permanently damaged. Many wither away in agony as their livers, kidneys, and lungs fail after years of mercury exposure. But the tragedy does not end there. Children born in La Rinconada are doomed before they take their first breath. Pregnant women, even if they don't work in the mines, absorb mercury through water, air, and food. The price they pay is birth defects, brain damage, seizures, and developmental disorders in their babies. Many infants never grow up, burdened with incurable illnesses from the moment they are born. The lucky children who survive do not fare much better. They grow up surrounded by toxic waste, playing among piles of garbage contaminated with mercury, lead, and arsenic. There are no doctors, no schools, and no future. Disease, poverty, and hopelessness are all that await them. But no one cares. In La Rinconada, a lump of gold is worth more than a human life. The miners keep working, even as they watch the poison destroy them, because if they stop, they will starve before the sickness kills them. The entire town is trapped in a cruel cycle. Work to survive, absorb poison, fall, ill, die slowly. There is no escape, unless they abandon everything and leave. But for those who come to La Rinconada, how many still have the strength to find their way back? Oxygen deprivation, a daily battle for survival. At 5,100 meters, 16,700 feet, above sea level, La Rinconada has only half the oxygen found at lower altitudes. This means that every single breath here is heavier, harder, and more exhausting. For newcomers, the lack of oxygen can trigger altitude sickness, causing dizziness, headaches, nausea, disorientation, and even death if their bodies fail to adjust. But even those who have lived here for years never truly become healthy. To survive, their bodies adapt by producing more red blood cells to transport oxygen more efficiently. But this adaptation comes at a cost. It puts them at high risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and strokes. Many live in a constant state of exhaustion from chronic oxygen deprivation. On freezing nights, some never wake up again. The thin air doesn't just make breathing difficult. It makes every kind of labor unbearable. The miners of La Rinconada dig for gold in oxygen-starved tunnels, where even the smallest movement can cause dizziness, heart palpitations, or sudden blackouts. They work in suffocating darkness, where toxic gases from the mines mix with the already thin air. And sometimes, one breath too short is their last. By day, they struggle to survive their work. By night, they battle cold and nightmares. Many have died in their sleep, their bodies too weak to fight the lack of oxygen any longer. Violence and crime, a lawless existence. The extreme climate and toxic pollution aren't the only dangers in La Rinconada. There is something far worse: unchecked violence and lawlessness. This is a town with no government, no police, no laws, only armed gangs that control the gold mines, making their own rules, deciding who gets to live and who must die. To them, people are nothing more than tools for extracting gold. Anyone who stands in their way, whether a gold thief or an innocent bystander, can disappear without a trace. Murders without justice. With no police, no one investigates crimes. No one is held accountable. Justice does not exist here. Gunshots ring out in the night, but no one dares look out the window. At sunrise, bodies are often found dumped by the roadside, thrown into ravines, or worse, tossed into abandoned mine shafts. Sometimes, the victims are never found at all, their names erased from existence. In La Rinconada, a simple knife fight can mean instant death. A homeless man who says the wrong thing can be beaten to death. There is no protection for the weak. There is no truly safe place. Women, the silent victims. Violence doesn't only target men. Women in La Rinconada live in constant fear. This is a town overrun by men, miners, gangsters, criminals, and drug addicts. Women and children are the easiest targets. Rape, abduction, and human trafficking happen daily. But just like the murders, no one investigates and no one cares. Many women here are forced into prostitution, working in bars and brothels that thrive around the mines. Some came here hoping to earn money. Others were deceived, kidnapped, or sold. Once trapped, there is no way out. There is no one to protect them. No one speaks up. If a woman disappears, people simply shrug, as if it was meant to happen. The strong rule, the weak suffer. With no government oversight, the law of the jungle is the only rule. The gangs have the guns, the power, and the money from gold. They control everything. They dictate who is allowed to mine, who is forced out, and who must pay them a cut of their earnings to keep working. Those who refuse to comply are punished with violence or death. The workers have no choice. They accept the exploitation, the threats, the extortion, because gold is the only thing keeping them here. There is no law to rely on, no one to trust. Anyone could be a thief, a murderer, or a traitor. People come here to find gold, but what they end up losing is not just sweat and blood, it's their very last breath. So in the end, is La Rinconada a place where people search for gold, or a place where gold consumes human lives?